Question number 34. Consider 5 lines in a plane such that no 2 of them are parallel and no 3 of them intersect at a point. So no 3 of them are concurrent. Then the number of disjoint regions into which the plane is divided by these lines equals 17, 18, 16 and 20. Now instead of considering 5 lines right away, let us start with only one line. Okay, so we know that one line divides the plane into 2 disjoint regions. Yes, in LPP we have seen that origin side, non-origin side and all that stuff. Okay, now if I add one more line, or if I include one more line, and now I am making sure that these lines are not parallel. So if we draw the line like this, then how many regions will be there? 4. Yes. Okay, let's now include another line, L3. Okay, and let's count the number of regions now. So let L3 be this one. Okay, now how many regions? 1, 2, 3, right? Then this triangle, 4th one, 5th, 6th and 7th. So okay, so if we have 3 such lines, none of them parallel to other and none of them, well, no 3 of them intersect at a point, so 7. Okay, and let's now draw the 4th line, that is L4. Okay, now we need to ensure that it intersects all of them. Okay, and now let me erase the green dots. I just want you to notice the pattern, then you can guess the answer. Okay, so now I'm putting white dots. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th, 10th and 11th. Okay, so there are 11 regions for L4. Yes. Now you notice this pattern. If you are going from L1 to L2, then you are adding 2. From L2 to L3 you are adding 3. From L3 to L4 you are adding 4. Okay, so from L4, if you wish to go to L5, then you must add 5 to that. Yes, so 11 plus 5, 16. Yes, so that is option C. Okay, see, this is not the proof. Okay, you have to prove it by mathematical induction, but once you notice the pattern, then for MCQs your job is done. Okay, the other thing about these numbers is that every number here in this column, colorful numbers, is actually n into n plus 1 upon 2 plus 1. Okay, we will check it now. If we let n to be 1, then you will get 2. If you let n to be 2, then you will get 3, isn't it? Yes, and 3 plus 1 is 4. If you take n equal to 3, then it will be 3 into 4, 12, 12 upon 2, 6, 6 plus 1, 7. Okay, so you'll go on getting these numbers, 2, 4, 7 and so on, correct? So if someone asks you the generalized version of this, consider n lines with so and so, okay, then what will the formula be? The formula will be n into n plus 1 upon 2, which is the sum of first n natural numbers plus 1. Okay, so you may remember this as a general result, might be useful in the upcoming version of the ICER aptitude test and also other entrance examinations. So that is question 34. Question number 35. Consider the circle C that passes through the points 1, 0 and 0, 1 having the smallest area. Now smallest area implies smallest diameter. Then the equation of the tangent to the circle C at 0, 1 is, and we have four options: y equal to minus x plus 1, y equal to x minus 1, y equal to x, and y equal to x plus 1. Now you can always eliminate the options if possible. So if we want to find the tangents equation at 0, 1, you will see that 0, 1 does not lie on B, and neither it lies on C, y equal to x. Okay, so even by just looking at the options, we have eliminated two of them. So it is now A or D. The only difference between A and D now is the slope. For A the slope is -1, and for D the slope is +1. Okay, now we will work on finding the slope of the tangent. And as I told you, smallest area implies that this must be the largest chord of the circle. Okay, which means these points 1, 0 and 0, 1, they should be endpoints of the diameter. Well, one of the diameters. Yes, by the midpoint formula find the coordinates of the center, and by the distance formula find the radius of the circle. Okay, now the distance between them is actually √2, but that is diameter, so radius is half of that, or 1 upon √2 units. And in the introduction I have told you that if you know the product of the slopes of perpendicular lines is -1, and more importantly how to apply it, then there is no need for calculus method. But let me explain you the calculus method first. Okay, so in this method what we are going to do is we are going to first use the center radius form of the equation of the circle to get it, and then we are going to differentiate it to find slope of the tangent, that is dy by dx. So this is the equation of the circle: x minus h the whole squared plus y minus k the whole squared equal to r squared, and we have already found out the center and the radius of the circle. Okay, now I have differentiated both sides with respect to x. So RHS will be 0, LHS will be 2 into x minus 1 upon 2 plus 2 into y minus 1 upon 2 into derivative of y with respect to x, and this is important. Okay, this is the chain rule. Alright, and to find the slope of the tangent, which is dy by dx at 0, 1, we must substitute x equal to 0 and y equal to 1 in the differential equation that we have got here. So we will now get 2 into minus 1 upon 2 or minus 1 plus 2 into 1 minus 1 upon 2 or 2 into 1 upon 2 or 1 into y dash equal to 0, which implies that y dash is 1, or derivative of y with respect to x is 1, or slope of the tangent is 1, hence option D, because option D was y equal to x plus 1 and option A is y equal to minus x plus 1. Okay, so it is D. Now how to find it without using the calculus method? It's simple. You need to recall the fact that radius is perpendicular to tangent. Okay, this is what you learn in school. And can we find the slope of the diameter? Yes, slope of the diameter through 0, 1 and 1, 0 is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1, which is -1. And it so happens that they are asking us to find the equation of the tangent, or now the slope of the tangent, at one of these points. Okay, I think it is 1, 0. Oh, sorry, it is 0, 1. Okay, but that doesn't matter now because these tangents will be parallel to each other. So if the slope of the diameter is -1 or slope of the radius, slope of the tangent will be -1 upon slope of the radius, because product of slopes of two perpendicular lines is -1, so that gives us 1. Okay, so this is much faster than the calculus method. Okay, and the third method would be to prepare the sketch and just see whether the tangent is inclined with x-axis with positive inclination like this, or negative inclination like this, even then you will get the answer. So this is obtuse and this is acute. So that would be the fastest method, I guess. Now we will verify this graphically. Yes. So I have already plotted the points 0, 1 and 1, 0, which you can see in the blue color here. And this is the equation of the circle. Okay, the orange one. Okay. And I have drawn the tangent y equal to x plus 1, which is the tangent to this circle at 0, 1. And as I said, the other tangent which is at 1, 0 will be parallel to this one. Okay, so it will be y equal to x minus 1, I guess. Yes, so even that particular tangent will have slope 1. See, and the other thing that I was telling you is if you are able to sketch this particular circle correctly, then you can directly say that okay, the tangents are making an inclination with the x-axis which is acute. Okay, so there itself option D will be or should be chosen. Question number 36. Let the function f be defined from the closed interval -1 to 1 to the set of real numbers and let it be a continuous function. Consider the region S, which consists of the set of points whose coordinates are x, y, such that x lies between -1 and 1, both values inclusive, and y lies between 0 and f of x, both values again inclusive. For which of the following functions f, the area of the region S is the largest? Okay, now whenever you see the words largest, smallest, then you may guess that it is going to be a question on inequalities. Okay, and as I told you in the introduction, we will revisit the ranges of sine, cos and tan, and accordingly we will come up with our conclusion. Correct? Yes. So let us first read the options. All of them have pi raised to x in them. Okay, so this is acting like the scaling factor. Okay. Option A is pi raised to x into mod of sine pi x, then B pi raised to x into cos of pi x, C pi raised to x into 1 plus mod of tan of pi x by 10, and option D pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1. Correct? Now what I have done is I have first analyzed sine, cos and tan together, and then I have gone for pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1. Okay? Yes. The other thing about this problem is that whenever they ask you area of the region and you for sure know that all these functions are non-negative everywhere, at least in their domains, then the area of the region has to be the definite integral of the function from -1 to 1, but this is not the place to actually evaluate these definite integrals. Okay, it is going to take you a lot of time, and also you don't have access to calculators. So let's try to analyze the functions first. Okay, point number 1, the exponential function pi to the power x is greater than 0 for all values of x. Okay, so that is the only thing which does not have mod here, but that's fine because we know that it is always positive. Okay, so multiplying anything by pi raised to x, or if we are dealing in inequalities, multiplying both sides by pi raised to x is not going to change the sense of the inequality. Okay, point number 2, mod of sine theta and mod of cos theta in general is always less than or equal to 1 for all x, and also greater than or equal to 0 because we are taking the mod. Okay, now although the function tan is an onto function, okay, we are now restricting its domain to -1 to +1. Okay, so anyways we will not encounter the irremovable discontinuities of the tangent function because we are in the range minus pi by 10 to plus pi by 10. Okay, and this is definitely in the interval minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, so we need not worry about the discontinuities of the tangent function. Okay, and because we are taking the modulus of this, okay, we can be 100% sure that it is going to be greater than or equal to 0. Yes, so for all x in the domain of the function f, mod of tan of pi x by 10 is going to be greater than or equal to 0. So this is the third point. Okay, and using this we can easily conclude that area occupied by the function c is greater than areas occupied by functions a and b. Okay, how? As we noted in the point 3, mod of tan of pi x by 10 is greater than or equal to 0. So if we add 1 to that, which is here, okay, in the function itself, then it will be always greater than or equal to 1. Yes, because we are adding a positive number, or we are adding this number. And as I noted here in the first point, multiplying both sides of an inequality by any positive number is not going to change the sense of inequality. Okay, which means if mod of sin pi x and mod of cos pi x are less than or equal to 1, and 1 plus mod of tan pi x upon 10 is greater than or equal to 1, multiplying everything by pi raised to x is not going to change the sense of these inequalities, which means mod of sin of pi x by 10 and mod of cos of, which means mod of sin of pi x and mod of cos of pi x will always be less than negative 1. Which means pi raised to x into mod of sin pi x and pi raised to x into cos of pi x will be less than or equal to pi raised to x. Yes, but pi raised to x into 1 plus mod of tan of pi x by 10 will be greater than or equal to pi raised to x. So we can now conclude that area under the curve pi raised to x into 1 plus mod of tan pi x by 10 is greater than pi raised to x into mod of sin pi x and pi raised to x into cos of pi x. Okay, so as far as the first three options are concerned, it is option C. Okay, so definitely A and B are not right because we are looking for the largest area now. So let's go to D now. Okay, let's give it a thought. F of x is pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1. Now here we should know the properties of the modulus function, particularly its range. Okay, so mod x is always greater than or equal to 0. So if you add 1 to both the sides, mod of x plus 1 will be greater than or equal to 1. Yes. Now if you take the reciprocal, then we can say that 1 upon mod of x plus 1 is always going to be less than or equal to 1. Okay, which means if we now multiply this function by pi raised to x, which is the function in option D, then this will always be less than or equal to pi raised to x. Yes, which means the arguments that we made for sine and cos are going to work for pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1, which means this pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1. Okay, sine of pi x is mod into pi raised to x and cos of pi x is mod into pi raised to x. All of them will be less than or equal to pi raised to x. But we know that tan is going to be greater than that. Well, not tan, the function which contains tan. Into pi raised to x. Okay, because these functions will be equal to each other only at finitely many points. Okay, so we had already discarded sine and cos. and now it's time to discard pi raised to x upon mod of x plus 1. Okay, so which function will have the largest area? The one that lies on the top of all other functions. Okay, so it is this function, and that is option C. Okay, now although in the examination you will not have access to calculators, now we do have, so let's verify our result graphically now. Okay, so I have now plotted these functions. Let me hide the graphs of mod, cos and sine. Yes, so this is now the graph of the function pi raised to x into 1 plus mod of tan of pi x by 10. Now our job is to verify that all three graphs are below this particular purple graph. So let's start with sine. Okay, it is in the blue color and our tan graph is in the purple color. So you'll now see that they do not intersect at all, and more importantly, sine's graph is always below that of tan. Correct? So as far as sine is concerned, our conclusion was right. Let me hide sine and bring in cos. Again, you can see that never in the interval -1 to 1 does the graph of cos intersect that of tan of pi x by 10. Okay, well, it does intersect here, but it never crosses. Okay, so the point of intersection is 0, 1, but otherwise it always lies below the tan thing. Okay, so even for cos our conclusion was right. Let's go to mod now. Yes, see, even in the case of mod, the curves intersect at 0, 1, but otherwise the green curve always lies below the tan curve. Yes, so as far as the areas occupied by these curves, the lines x equal to -1 and x equal to 1 and of course the x-axis are concerned, the purple function is going to have the maximum area. See, the problem is not asking you to actually find that area, it is just asking you to estimate the area, okay, or compare the areas. So that is option C. Question number 37. Let the function f from the set of real numbers to the set of real numbers be a continuous function. Then the function f is surjective or onto if, and you will now find that each option contains the limit of the function at infinity. Correct? Plus infinity as well as minus infinity. Now the thing about onto functions is that whenever you are finding the range of any function, you need to project the graph of that function on the y-axis. Correct? So if I were to do that, let's say this is our xy plane and this is the graph of the function, something like this. Okay, so what will be the range of this function? You need to project the entire graph on y-axis. Yes, so this is telling us that the interval, the closed interval from this point, let's call it alpha, to this point beta. So alpha beta is going to be the range of the function. Correct? Now what they want is the function defined to the set of real numbers and they want it to be onto. Okay, which means the codomain should be equal to the range of the function. Yes, and because this function is continuous, it must cover each and every value from -infinity to +infinity by the intermediate value theorem. Correct? So the projection of our function f, or the graph of, or the projection of graph of our function f should cover entire y-axis. Now that has two possibilities. Okay, possibility 1, if the function's limit as x tends to infinity is positive infinity, then the function's limit as x tends to -infinity must be -infinity. But if you look in the options, you will not find this. Option A is not right because both are tending to positive infinity, and options B and C are anyways not right, okay, because they contain zeros. So it must be option D, and that is our possibility 2. If limit as x tends to infinity of f of x is minus infinity, okay, that means our graph is in the 4th quadrant, correct? Then limit as x tends to minus infinity of f of x must be infinity, only then it is going to be an onto function. So the corresponding portion of the graph will be in the 2nd quadrant, correct? Yes. So even by eliminating options B, C and A, you could prove that the function is onto if these limits are non-finite, but if for infinity it is minus infinity, then for minus infinity it must be infinity. Okay, so a very simple but elegant question which tests you the understanding or your knowledge of functions in general, their graphs, and particularly the graphs of onto or surjective functions. Okay.